Who could use these skills, and then who could you use these skills on? I mean, who would you use these skills with?
Well, I think these skills are most effective in a couple of different areas. One is going to be in sales, obviously. You're connecting with people, you're reaching out. And sales can be any number of things. I mean, you'd be selling your wife on the idea that you want to go to this movie versus that movie. I mean, that really could be sales if you understand the process. The biggest use of it is going to be in negotiation, which is beyond that first connection. So that means it could be the sales process, it could be working with vendors, suppliers, it may be trying to get things to happen differently up the chain of command, down the chain of command, and even when you have different team leaders, where you need them to do one thing or they need you to do one thing, yet you have no authority to make it happen. Understanding these skill sets are going to be the essential ingredient that determines whether they're on your team or not, whether they move forward or take action when in a situation when they normally wouldn't have done that.
Do you have like a story or an example you could kind of share with us to illustrate how this works in a good way?
Yeah. Well, and the negative approach is that the stories that did not go so well are probably the clearest illustrations typically. I can give you a couple of positive ones as well. We'll start with a positive, and I'll give you a negative so you can see the positive side of that. One of the things doing negotiation, understanding people, involves using standards. Different companies have different standards of conduct. Different people have different standards for themselves. And if you know what those standards are, and you know where they're coming from, then you can frame things in a certain way. For instance, there was a gentleman who had, with a couple partners, invested in a small airport in one of the British Virgin Islands. Okay, so they flew over. They were getting ready to do the final part of the deal and had a small office there. So they fly in with just him and the pilot. They want to check the office, make sure everything's in good condition, everything's following the right standards and all. And they get into the airport, and there's nobody in the customs area of this little island except for just the one person. And this lady gives them lots of problems. Paperwork, just holding them up, just did not seem to be having a good day, and made sure they knew about that. And it was interesting because that person had dealt with that pilot coming in and out many times. They had the airport pass. And here's the thing, the building they were inspecting was literally 50 yards from where they were standing in the terminal, because it was a plane office, an airplane office. And they looked it up on the wall, and I don't remember the exact wording of that, but the Prime Minister had given a quote, and they had it on the wall. It said, welcome to the British Virgin Islands. You'll experience the absolute best in customer service that we have to offer. We welcome you as if you were family, those types of things. And so the gentleman who was investing went over to the lady and said, did the Prime Minister really say that? And she said, well, yeah, kind of looking nervously at him. And he said, well, let me ask you this, how does that apply to this situation right here? He said, we were out of there in 5 minutes. It's just changing people's mindset. He knew that thought of, man, the Prime Minister saying this and you're not doing it, had a very powerful impact. Did it mean they were friends or not? No, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with resolving a situation in the most effective way possible. And so that's one of the ways that you can use understanding of behaviors, because people do put faith in that 800-pound gorilla that was way off somewhere else, but the Prime Minister is that image. The same could be the corporate figurehead. If you're on the phone call and you say, if the CEO was on the phone with us right now, what would he think of the situation and how it's being handled? It's being able to do that. And with certain behaviors, you can do that. With other behaviors, you try that same thing. I don't care what he would think. It's me dealing with you right now.
So there is an approach to bringing up that kind of information, or bringing the CEO into the conversation. You can do it the right way, or you can do it wrong in that regard. Yes,
if you actually brought him in a certain situation, you would actually create a barrier. And who knows? You might get absolutely nowhere. Granted, you could go down the chain of command and maybe get fixed later. But why take the path of most resistance when, if you understand the people, you can take the path of least resistance?